like put license plate still. She's a fuck. She didn't like the really fun. She out to like
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, students, teachers, community members, and most importantly, the past and present members of our military. On November 11th, millions of people across our country honor the brave men and women who have served and are still serving our country today. I am Kate Altendorf, and I'll be one of your MCs for today's program.
And I am Tanner Smith, also emceeing today's program. As we welcome you all here today to honor our brave men and women who have served our country, we ask that you please rise, if able, and direct your attention to the Belchester American Legion Post 598 for the presentation of colors and our national anthem performed by the Goodhue Senior High Band under the direction of Mrs. Kimberly Lundow. Please remain standing as our kindergartners recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, kindergartners. Audience, you may be seated. The senior high band will now perform Let Freedom Ring.
I bucketed in training.
Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, was originally a United States holiday to honor the end of World War I, which officially ended on November 11, 1918. In 1954, following World War II and the Korean War, Congress voted in favor of changing Armistice Day to Veterans Day in order to honor American veterans of all wars.
Please help me welcome our guest speaker, Josh Hansen, to the podium.
How's everybody doing today? Well, thanks for having me. First, I want to recognize special thanks to all the veterans that are out there. When I was asked to come speak today, it was humbling. Again, thank you. But what's really important is the recognition of the men and women that are out here today. I see Korea hats, Vietnam hats. Special thanks to you all. Do we have any World War II veterans in the room today? Okay. Well, if you have any family members from the Greatest Generation, give them a special thanks today. In our Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and all the conflicts in between, thank you. My story is a very insignificant story compared to the hundreds of thousands of other stories out there, but today I was asked to give my little piece in that story. And I was told to keep it halfway short, so that's what I'll try to do. So my story starts off in 1999. I was from Red Wing. I graduated Red Wing High School, and I left for the Army. My parents told me to go in the Air Force, Navy, or not the military at all, and I did exactly the opposite. And I went into the Army Infantry, which, if you're a parent out there, you're probably one of those people that, you probably don't want your kid going into the infantry. But I did exactly what my parents told me not to do. So, and I put a lot of pictures in here today to make it easy. So I went down to Fort Benning, Georgia. It's a really hot, a really humid, and really smelly place, south of Atlanta, and there's not much good that happens at the place, but that's where I went, and I spent a significant portion of my early post-high school years there. I went to basic training at Fort Benning, which is the home of the infantry, and I graduated towards the October timeframe at Fort Benning. And I went to advanced infantry training there as well. I learned how to be an infantry person, the one that walks and runs through the mud and crawls and sleeps in the rain and all that fun stuff. Then I decided I want to take it a step farther, and I wanted to jump out of airplanes. And to this day, I'm deathly afraid of heights, and I'll never ever think about doing it again. But I did it, and I got a couple pictures of here when I was at Peters Hall at the Army Airborne School, also at Fort Benning. And you got the big towers. It's like a carnival ride. They bring you up and they drop you down, and you just learn how to fall out of an airplane and semi-safely hit the ground. But then I wanted to take it another step farther, and I wanted to go into special operations. I wanted to be an Army Ranger. So I went to the Army Indoctrination Program. It's kind of a selection process. So it's Army Rangers. If you ever seen Black Hawk Down or some of those movies, I ended up serving with some of those individuals that were involved with that. I went through the selection process, and some people think I was just too dumb to quit. So I ended up being fortunate and I made it. And I ended up getting stationed at Fort Benning with the 3rd Ranger Battalion. And this is a picture of my platoon. With the Rangers, it was a pretty hectic lifestyle. We were always gone. We would do drills. This is pre-9/11. My military experience was, I would say, unique in that I seen a peacetime army, which a lot of people hadn't seen post 9/11. And after being in the military for some time with Ranger Battalion, well, this is a picture of, at the time before 9/11, we were worried about like counter drugs and stuff in like South America and some of the other conflicts like Grenada and Panama, as some of the people in the room might remember some of those. And those are the things that we were training for. Just a couple more pictures, and this was actually one of my first training missions with Ranger Battalion. We ended up going to the Bahamas. Anyone been vacationing in the Bahamas before? Well, we went there. It wasn't really a vacation. We got on a bunch of helicopters and we were buzzing cruise liners out in the middle of the ocean and practicing doing raids out there. It was an interesting time, right on the outside of the aircraft along the ocean. And here's some of the jump pictures, getting ready to jump out of the plane. We used to weigh ourselves before we jumped out of the aircraft, and it was excess of about 450 pounds I weighed when I left the aircraft. The funny thing is, and they were pretty open about it, my reserve parachute was only effective for about 400 pounds. Luckily, I never needed it. Here's another happy day that I made a jump. And I'm actually one of the people in this picture. My friend took this picture as we were doing a daytime training jump. I think I'm here. Never was able to verify them, either the one on the far right or the next one in, but either way, I thought it was a cool picture, one of my favorites. Again, I don't like jumping, but the pictures are cool. This is a picture I took. This was a higher elevation jump, altitude jump. We jumped from about 2,000 feet in this picture. Generally, we jump from about 800 feet, and we'd hit the ground a couple seconds later. But this one offered me a little bit more time to take the picture. This was down in the southwest United States near the Mexican border, and it was one of the most painful jumps I ever had. The ground is hard, and it hurt. And then 9/11 happened. So that Tuesday morning, September 11th, we were just wrapping up our PT, getting ready for breakfast, and they said there's something happening in New York City. And we had just assumed our alert cycle for a global response to anything that would happen. And our Ranger battalions, there's 3 of them, and they rotate on this cycle. Anytime there's a problem in the world that the president needed to address, we would be the ones to be called on. And about several weeks before 9/11, we had assumed that role. And then obviously the 9/11 attacks occurred. So we were the first ones to leave the United States to go over to the Afghanistan theater. So we left Fort Benning in the middle of the night. The governor of Georgia actually greeted us as we were walking onto the aircraft. And we would fly into a couple locations, picking up a few other units in the United States. So we would eventually end up in a place called Masri Island, and then I found myself in the middle of the Arabian Sea on an aircraft carrier. And that's where we ended up stationed for the initial invasion in Afghanistan in 2001. And there's a lot of things happening on this day that still kind of impact the things that are still occurring over there. So Task Force SWORD was the first group over there. So it was made up of Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Army Delta, and there was Green Berets. And I'll show you a picture here, kind of illustrates the initial hours of the war in Afghanistan. So if you look at the map, we ended up going into the southern part of Afghanistan here, and we had special forces going up to the north here. And the special forces were trying to group up with the Northern Alliance. Now, if you remember back in those days, they were trying to go after the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ultimately Osama bin Laden was up in that northern part, and he would end up escaping into Pakistan during that. So the Rangers, my group, we weren't really anything but cannon fodder. So our objective was to make a whole bunch of ruckus in the southern part of Afghanistan to divert the attention of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda away from the real operations in the north. And if you ever seen the movie 12 Strong, those are the guys that we were supporting in the north, the horse soldiers, and we would listen to them on the radios at times, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. And ultimately, the other piece that was occurring was the Afghan president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai. These guys here were going in to secure him, and one of our other objectives was to secure airfields so those guys could get in. So I ended up sitting on an airfield, met those guys in the center there in the book as they were going in to keep Hamid Karzai safe, to get him out. So after my time with the Ranger Battalion, I got out and I went in the Army National Guard. I stayed with the infantry because I didn't learn my lessons yet, so I wanted to keep it sporty in life. So then the Republican National Convention occurred up in the cities. So I took a group of guys up there and we helped out with some of the civil disturbance, some of the protesting. And then we ended up flying out to the East Coast for the presidential inauguration. We were on a quick reaction force to support if anything bad happened out there. Unfortunately, nothing did. And then I would go back to Iraq for Operation New Dawn, because my career is interesting in that it's the first one into Afghanistan, and I was literally the last ones officially out of Iraq, 2011 and 2012. So our mission in Iraq was route security, route clearance. So we were looking for bombs. We would drive up and down the roads out of Kuwait all the way into northern Iraq, trying to locate bombs before they found any of our other people. It was kind of nerve-wracking at times, but wasn't as bad as it could have been. It's just a picture of me in the passenger seat, the 100 night vision goggles. And just got a whole bunch of other pictures here. Try to keep it simple with pictures. We had our friends in the helicopters that they would fly over us and give us protection as we would cross different areas in Iraq. Most people with bad guys, they would see or hear the helicopters coming, and they would run away before we had to deal with anything, which was good. This is a police station in Iraq. I like this picture because all the cops are sleeping. We drove by them quite a bit, and they're friendly. Some of them were. And just some more pictures of my guys over there, and actually we still stay in touch here for the most part, and good group of guys. And a lot of them here are still in Minnesota. The guy on the right was my medic in Iraq. A great guy. Still lives down by Juan Domingo, and no, good guy. He's got like 10 kids, and it was always great hearing the stories. Now, this is some of our partners overseas that we were working with. They're foreign nationals, Iraqis, just people from all over, and they would be driving some of the trucks too that we would be escorting, bringing equipment and supplies during the drawdown out of Iraq. And if there's any Iraq veterans in the room here, this is just a picture of Route Irish. And this is a much later time frame. If any of you were there in 2003 to 2009, I don't know if you ever got a nice picture like this because it was chaos there, but it was much more calmed down. Do we have any Iraq veterans in the room today? This is a picture of Baghdad. I like this picture because it really shows what it's like over there. It's just, the smells, there's fires, debris, and it's just, it's not a real great vacation spot. So I ended up getting out of the military eventually. Well, this year was a road march we did with the National Guard. Just threw a bunch of weight on our back, and we'd race 20 miles, I think this one was. I know I like pain and agony, I guess, but it was fun. It was good for a good cause. And this was a memorial for some of our World War II veterans in Bataan. And then every year I get together with some of my Ranger friends, some of the National Guard friends, and just some of my friends that weren't in the military. And we just do it's a 28-mile walk. I just say 30 because at the end of the day it gets to be about 30 miles. And we just walk from Red Wing to Hastings, and we just remember all of our friends that we lost overseas. So it's every year on Memorial Day. It's a pretty important thing for me. So I'm going to keep it short here. Again, thank you for having me talk today, and all the veterans out there, thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. The Senior High Choir will now perform Stand with the Brave under the direction of Mrs. Emily Shores.
quilt you see displayed in front of you is made by the Third Place Quilters. The Third Place Quilters is a local quilt group consisting of about 14 members who meet monthly to share their love of quilting. This is the 5th year of presenting a quilt in honor of one of the well-deserving veterans attending this program. Making this group quilt is a group effort and a true labor of love. It is a small token of appreciation for your service to our country. Previous winners include Harold Lench, Rich Rash, Fred Fonslow, and Rich Arndt, so as to reach as many veterans as possible. Previous winners are not eligible to participate in today's drawing. Thank you, veterans, for your service and sacrifice, but most of all, thank you for your freedom. And the quilt winner for 2022 is Dave O'Reilly.
We will now recognize all the veterans in our audience. As you are able, please stand when your name is called. If there is anyone that we missed, please stand as well. Josh Hansen, Dale Van Gilder, Curtis Struess, Roger Voth, Rodney Voth, Pat Benson, John Hunnicky, Seamus Ryan, Mark Tomford, Dan Bannett, Dwayne Stemmen, Wayne Gadient, Paul Lewis, Gary Nord, Alan Holm, Josh Nelson, Ryan Nelson, Dwayne Jonas, John Augustine, Rich Arndt, Jim Mollenhauer, Dave O'Reilly, Greg Gurman, Roger O'Reilly, George Snyder, Shane Ryan, Richard Rash, Larry Groth, Jerry Seams, Dustin Lumen, Ray McNamara, Richard Kallstrom, Gary Quast, Nikki Sheely, Brian Sheely, Mason Taxall, Fred Fonslow, and Carly Kirk. Thank you.
I encourage everyone here to personally thank a veteran today. Thank them for their service to our country and for the sacrifices they have made.
At the conclusion of our program, we ask that all veterans, the winner of the quilt drawing, and the third place quilters meet by the Wall of Honor for photos. All veterans and their families are invited to join us in the Commons area for refreshments. We are welcome to take your refreshments to go if you wish. At this time, would you please rise as able as the Belchester American Legion Post 598 retires the colors.
Veterans, like kids of veterans. Born with some
Thank you, veterans, for your service and sacrifice, but most of all, thank you for our freedom.
You guys can go now.
Stop that. 1 hour are we in?